Good afternoon and welcome to our annual Alumni Leaders on Campus Day. I'm Dr. Debbie Howarth, Interim Assistant Dean for the College of Business. We're excited to bring this panel discussion to you virtually. This program is a collaboration between the Office of Alumni Relations and the College of Business and celebrates our alumni who are doing such great things in their respective industries. We've had some amazing alumni here to speak with you today, and we're so grateful that they've taken time out of their very busy schedules to be here. I know that you'll find their experiences and stories inspiring. If you have any questions for the panel, for the alumni panel, please enter them in the Q&A section, and we will get to as many as we can towards the end of the program. So, alumni, I have a series of questions for you. So I'll let you decide in what order you'd like to respond to give yourselves a minute to think about the answer. The first question, alumni, please take a moment to introduce yourselves and share your major, the year you graduated, and your current position, and a brief description of what you do.
Go first. Hi, my name is Alexis. I graduated from JWU in 2018 with my bachelor's in human resources management. And I currently work for the Marine Biological Laboratory, which is a research and educational institution in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. And I'm very happy to be here today.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Michael Volo. I was a business management major, graduated 2017. Currently also still a student, pursuing my online MBA. I work for Ecolab. We're a global leader in cleaning and sanitation, and I manage corporate account relationships with our customers.
Topher?
My name is Topher, international business major, graduated in 2001. I currently am the director of store signage for Ross Stores Incorporated, based out of Dublin, California.
Great, thank you.
I'll jump in. Paul Mobilia, class of 2011. Currently working at Under Armour. I had a major in marketing and retail merchandising. Currently a senior manager on the sales team at Under Armour, working on the wholesale side. Managing a portfolio of accounts really throughout the entire country, West Coast, Midwest, and on the East Coast as well.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Tiffany Auby. I was a 2016 graduate. My major was finance with a concentration of analytical studies. My current position, I work for Fidelity Technology Group, LLC, as a business analyst for the Client Information and Interaction Squad. Essentially, we're responsible for making sure we are collecting and capturing all relevant client information between the client and our Fidelity users for our clearing and custody and other sections of Fidelity.
Great, thank you. Mitchell?
Thanks, Doctor. By way of introduction, I'm Mitch Bell, and class of '89 Providence, majored in the Business School of Management, and was in the inaugural class, received a degree in entrepreneurship, which was interesting. So I serve as a managing director within Pershing's Wealth Solutions unit, and Pershing is a wholly owned company by Bank of New York Mellon, BNY Mellon. And I manage some of our largest strategic relationships with respect to the broker-dealer Wealth Solution Group, and recently was asked to head up Digital Wealth Solutions, which is focused on an emerging segment that is has focused on democratizing investment solutions and bringing them to the retail market.
Wonderful, great, thank you. The next question is, tell us about your first job after graduation and how those led to other opportunities. And if I could start with Michael.
So my path is a little different. I was a CE student, so I was already working in my career path. what I was doing at that point, it was a previous position, was managing a team of sales and service associates, taking care of hospitality business and the dispensing systems throughout Rhode Island. And since moved on from that position and now in our sales only division.
Great, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, my first job out of school actually did nothing for what I'm currently doing now, other than remind me to work really hard to find my path to this industry. It was a tech startup in the Federal Reserve Bank in Boston for a company called Connect EDU. They created a platform that basically allowed college applicants to sort of aggregate all of their college applications and only to send them out one time to all the schools that they were working with. So although did gain some, some pretty important knowledge from working there, wasn't an enjoyable experience and had no bearing on where I'm at now at UA.
Yes, it's true. Sometimes the jobs we get are to guide us in what we don't want to be doing. So that's
absolutely,
great.
absolutely.
Alexis?
Yeah, so one of my first jobs out of school was a contract position, and I was working for the TJX companies as a leave of absence representative. So I was advising on medical leave of absence and personal leave of absences in the HR department. So that was a contract position, but then my first official real job was I worked at the New England Aquarium as the internship coordinator. So a lot of facilitating, managing, and placing interns into opportunities that put them on their career path for either zoology or animal care.
That's exciting. Wow. Let's see. Topher.
So I worked my senior year at the Career Development Office in the Culinary Campus on the Providence campus. And I also worked at the Roger Williams Park Zoo for Aramark in the cash office on weekends for them. So through the college recruitment program, I actually was onboarded for the human resource assistant position for campus services out of their regional office in Wakefield, Massachusetts. That for about a year and a half before transitioning over into retail.
Very cool. Thank you. Mitchell?
Sure. So I started my career at Merrill Lynch and in the financial service industry in their management training program. And that started with a 3-month training class that I was part of, where we rotated from different classroom and practical training with respect to Merrill Lynch and their support of financial advisors. And then my first assignment, you got placed after graduating from that program, was in a customer service group that supported financial advisors. So I took on average 130 calls a day, grinding my teeth. It was, at the time, I thought it was the worst possible job I could ever have. And in hindsight, I look back and say, in a relatively short period of time, less than 9 months, I learned more about the financial service business and how financial advisors support their individual investors and run their small business, their practices, than I could have in years. So I was immersed into customer service and answering those phone calls and people not being so nice to you, and it helped define me and my path forward and the customer advocacy role I'm in today.
Fantastic. Tiffany?
So my first career after graduating was at Fidelity as part of their National Financial Services LLC organization. I was hired through what they called at the time the Service Trainee Program, and it was specifically meant for recent graduates. They would hire you, give you basic training for about a month, and then they would place you into a department that needed additional assistance. In my case, I was placed on our clearing side of the organization for the platform deployment department. So there I was normally a liaison between our broker dealers and third-party vendors for product setups and dispute conversations. Also performed a few platform analysis for our clients to increase their efficiencies on our platforms, and kind of future state looking on where they should go next. I was only in the role for about 4.5 months, but I also was responsible for updating, or at least helping update, a lot of the legacy documentation that my team was utilizing to identify old documents and help create a system to get them updated for future processing.
Wow, that's exciting. And in that role, it sounds like, and based on Mitch's experience and the others, it's also an opportunity that where you're getting to shine and you get to show the people around you what you're good at and where your strengths are in order to kind of position yourself for whatever's next. So it sounds wonderful. Number 3, how did the university help prepare you for a successful career? And actually, I'll start with Tiffany.
And then the first question starting the next. So I would say Johnson & Wales really helped me more from the analytical and future thinking mindset. When I was a student here, myself and a couple of students, we would converse, and we didn't like everything that was going on, and the professors at Johnson & Wales, they gave us the opportunity to make changes that would not only help ourselves but also help future students down the line, and that sort of motivation I actually took with me as I went over to Fidelity, and I've been improving processes and actually all of my roles sort of with that same mindset. I don't like when people say, oh, well, things have always been this way, so we're going to keep doing it that way. I grew up in college that, that's not the case, and we should always challenge and have continuous improvements and learning opportunities. So I would say that was one of those larger things that I took from college.
Very cool. And what's also exciting is Tiffany is one of our founding members of the Wildcat Investment Value Fund. So very exciting to have you on today. And it just shows your innovation when you were here and how we're all reaping the benefits of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Mitchell?
Yeah, sure. So I had a little different perspective on this because I didn't start right out of high school going to Johnson & Wales. I went to a liberal arts school in Pennsylvania and then transferred into Johnson & Wales. So I actually got, to be able to compare a liberal arts school to a school where I was focused and surrounded by other business students. And while the university gained in popularity in terms of brand recognition associated with culinary, the business school was pretty tight in terms of being surrounded by like-minded people. So I think that part of it, just being immersed in that culture, was helpful. And then the differentiator, particularly compared to a liberal arts school for me, was the faculty and the professors. And I had some that were really influential that were also small business owners or had industry experience and were sort of doing this for fun, right? My finance teacher, I recall, had made more money than in industry than he probably knew what to do with, and he was sort of retired early and did what he thought was really fun, which is spread the wisdom and share. And part of the course materials was the Wall Street Journal, right? Reading the Wall Street Journal and coming prepared with a classroom instruction based on things that were going on in real life, practical challenges and events that were going on in the financial service industry. And that had really a profound effect on me. Not only did the professor, but the content, and sort of directed me to a career in finance.
That's exciting. So it's one of the things, and being a former faculty member, we bring our passions to the classroom. So being able to connect with our students and being able to, dig out those little nuggets in our students that carry them forward is just one of our passions. So it's so nice to hear it from our alums as well. Let's see, Topher?
Sure. So I would definitely say the opportunity to learn how to market myself and attend the numerous career fairs and the career development programs that the university offered really prepared me much better for the real world. As I spent the last 20 years being actively involved in my various roles and doing a lot of college recruiting, I really see how a lot of other colleges and universities don't actively prepare their students for that process. And it's awful being on that side as a recruiter, and how painful it can really be, and how as a recruiter you try to make it as easy as possible for those young students that don't have that experience to really feel at ease and comfortable to come up, because it's very scary to come up to a recruiter and try to learn how to market yourself. But I would definitely say just the years of practice, that by the time I was a senior, it was still a little nerve-wracking, but I would definitely say that I felt a lot more comfortable because of the practice and because of that real world experience that I had on my resume, valuable experiences that made me a marketable candidate. I still don't see that when I'm out there today in the field that other colleges and universities just don't do for their students.
I'm glad we have that competitive advantage. And yes, it is so important to make sure we have students prepared to meet up with recruiters and go through that experience. And yeah, it takes a great amount of stress, I think, off of you if you are prepared. And it can be a little intimidating sometimes to meet a recruiter, but to certainly prepare. So thank you. Alexis?
Sure. So like Mitchell, I actually transferred in to Johnson & Wales. I went to community college before. I did my first year at a community college because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then once I had an idea, I actually, I did a ton of research on Johnson & Wales. I visited the campus and I, fell in love with the school, and I ended up transferring into the human resources program. And what I found was a lot of the classes were extremely practical to what the industry, now that I've been in the industry, I can look back, the curriculum was really aligned with that. So I remember I took a compensation and benefits course, and now I'm working in benefits. I'm working with our senior benefits manager to go over compensation packages and talking to employees about compensation. So a lot of it was really setting me up for success in terms of what I was going to be doing. At the time I didn't know, but now I know what I'm going to be doing with my career. Another thing was getting involved on campus. So being a part of the Society of Human Resources Management, being a part of that chapter, doing case competitions and connecting with other SHRM chapters in the Rhode Island area, it really kind of drove home that I wanted to be in this industry. It was exciting and it was a great opportunity to meet other people. And then also just being involved on campus through the admissions office. So I was an ambassador and I worked in the admissions office every day from sophomore to senior year. And so it was great to be able to learn those skills through being involved with different organizations. But also the courses that I was taking were really aligned with what I was going to be doing post-graduation.
That's fantastic. And that comes full circle for us, because when we're developing curriculum, we absolutely are connecting with industry, and we're really asking that question, what do our students need to know to, be successful in industry? So it's nice to see it coming full circle. So thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of an interesting perspective here, but like Mitch and like Alexis, I also transferred in. And I had a family member as a faculty member of the school. So I sort of got a more intimate kind of glimpse into what the experience would be like prior to even pursuing attending the school. But when I got here, I think some of the things that, till this day, I still think stand out was just, the connectivity to the faculty and their real world experience, similar echo to what other members have said here. But really that being first and foremost, I think obviously a collaborative environment with students that are like-minded was second, and really helping build those muscles in terms of networking, communicating effectively. And then really for me, 3 was just managing our time, right? At least when I was there, it was trimesters. So a little bit more condensed schedules and on tighter timelines. So those 3 things till this day, I leverage and use on a day-to-day in my career. So big focus on those 3 things for me.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Michael.
So as a CE student already working in a field that I wanted to be in, we also dealt with the day professors, but also we had a lot of adjunct faculty that we worked with at night. And those adjunct faculty were vital in, taking their day jobs and bringing them to us and understanding that we were adults that were already working in an industry that had to relate what we were doing in the classroom and in the assignments into our work life, that we already, were doing the things that we were learning in class to a certain extent and how to think about them from a different capacity. Myself also, before coming to Johnson & Wales as a CE student, I had attended a few other institutions here and there, taking a class here, or got my associates in a community college. And it was a much different atmosphere, obviously, being on campus with Johnson & Wales at night, going from work to the classroom at night, and understanding what I was doing during the day was actually helping me succeed in my studies.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And that's so important, whether it's a CE student or a regular full-time student, having that real world understanding to ground you. So while you're going through your classes and seeing it kind of play out in your job, it's just so important to help make those connections. So thank you. One of the things, not that we ever get older, but I've kind of recrafted this question a little bit. Something we all discuss as we move through our careers is the old adage, I knew now, or I knew then what I know now, I would do X differently. So the audience and I would like to hear, what would you have done differently in your undergraduate years that may have helped you today? Is there anything you can think of? And it could be working, as we were just talking about, working while going to school, so a part-time job, taking different or extra courses. We were talking earlier about involvement in the community or in clubs and such, anything. So
I'll jump in first if.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Yeah. So
Perfect.
For me, I'm going to take a different approach with this one. I just think for me, as an 18-year-old, I was an athlete. I went to a school to play a sport, realized pretty quickly that I was solely focused on the sport and not focused on my education. And the results prove that. So for me, by the time I got to Johnson & Wales, there was a different focus for me in terms of the value I was going to get out of it and what was needed from me in order to succeed. So I think the school sort of fostered that atmosphere, at least for where I was in my life. And I don't know that I would change much about my experience at Johnson & Wales, but I think for me as an 18-year-old, had I had that as an option, may have considered, a different route there, but success isn't a straight line oftentimes. So it ended up working out, but don't think that I would change anything about my experience at JWU.
Great. Thank you.
I would say probably because specifically with HR, it's come so far from where it used to be. If we look historically at HR, the party planners are the paperwork, but I feel like it's really evolved in past that. And there's so many specialties that you can go into. There's so many different branches of HR that you can focus on. And I think that if I could go back, I did one internship prior to graduating, and I worked with the HR generalist. And so a lot of my day-to-day was onboarding new employees and coordinating events on campus. And it was great to kind of get that baseline experience, but I wish I had at least one other internship opportunity or volunteer opportunity to combat that, to see what else in the HR, specifically for me, or I guess in the business world, what else was out there. Because again, with HR, there's so much that you can go into and so much that you can specialize in. So I think that if I had another internship to kind of compare, contrast, maybe I'd be able to see, okay, I really like this aspect of the internship, but I didn't really like this, and vice versa. So I think that's my perspective of it.
Perfect, thanks. Who'd like to go next?
Yeah,
I'll jump in. Oh, do you want to go first? Go ahead.
So I would jump on what Alexis said. I think that there's a massive amount of knowledge and information that you can gain from a class or a club, but really that real world experience is where you're going to find out what you truly love and what you like. I don't think I really like this. This isn't for me. And I graduated. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I said this earlier this morning, 20 something years later, I still don't think I know what I want to do, but I've managed to make a career out of the last 20 plus years. And I continue to find new and exciting things. And I think that the more experience you can get out into the real world and just trying different things, that's going to help you as you get a little bit closer to graduation to understand what is out there, what might be of interest to you. Like Alexis said, there's HR is huge. Like I've worked in HR, I've been a recruiter, but there's massive things. Like I work in retail, but retail is this massive industry that involves fraud, it involves HR, it involves distribution, logistics, like all these different massive things that there, and sometimes there's like a negative connotation, like, oh, retail, but there's just so many different things out there. So I think the more you can get out there and just experience different things, you're gonna gain some real knowledge, and that helps you kind of narrow down what you might be interested in a little bit better.
Wonderful, thank you. Tiffany?
All right, I'll jump in now. So there's actually two things on my end. One's more from a holistic perspective. The other is selfishly for my existing role. So for my overall experience, I wish that, if I had the same knowledge that I could have obtained today, way back then, one of those things would have been about personal branding. I feel like Johnson & Wales is really good at getting technical and teaching you your foundations of your major, and giving you those really important skills. But for the time that I went to the school, it wasn't as quite as focused on your kind of self-reflection. When I got to Fidelity, about a year and a half in, I did take a self-branding course, and it was like one of those light bulb moments. Understanding how people perceive me and I perceive others, that would have probably made some of my transitions between graduating to now a little bit smoother if I learned it a little bit earlier. So that was one thing. The other, again, this is more selfishly for my existing role. I wish that I took more technology focused classes in college. As I mentioned before, I was finance, had a concentration in analytical studies. I did a bunch of Excel courses, but now that I actually work for the technology side of Fidelity, it's a whole new ball game. I don't know about coding or anything like that. So if I was smart enough back then to maybe take 1 or 2 courses in at least the basic technology focused area, that probably would have helped me a lot for my existing position.
Sounds great. Yes, I think we all need some extra technology every so often. So I totally agree with that. Who else would like to answer? Has a good answer.
Yeah, so it's Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch.
So I would say definitely an internship. And I'm not saying they weren't out there, but there weren't as many. I should have been more assertive in securing an internship instead of delivering pizzas, right? So that delivering pizzas wasn't particularly helpful, but it felt rewarding because I had money to go downtown afterwards. And then along that same lines, I don't even know if this is a thing anymore, but I would have spent less time at Saki's after 12 midnight downtown, because nothing can come good after 12 midnight.
Good information. Yes. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so my next question for you. What qualities do you look for in your younger team members?
I'll jump in. I mean, for me, first and foremost, it's diversity. Where you grew up, how you were raised, what you're interested in. Those are all really important characteristics in terms of driving really productive collaboration, and for a company that, makes products that people actually wear and have an inherent connection to, that's really important, because you need, the end user to be really satisfied with the products that are being built and that they're wearing and using. And for me, that's first and foremost. And then I would just say second, open-mindedness and willingness to work. Don't be afraid to admit what you don't know, ask questions, and just really work hard, because at the end of the day, at that period of your career, you're just building the foundation. So if you have those two things, I think ultimately it will lead to success. And I found that to be true in my experience.
Yeah, I agree with Paul. The whole work ethic thing is a big deal. Someone that's willing to push the pace and do extra without being asked to. A self-starter, and I know that's often overused, but it's a big deal. You don't require a supervisor or a babysitter. Confidence, and Paul said it, just be a sponge, right? Not a know-it-all. I look specifically for people that and you can get this in an interview, probing questions, and find out if someone was born on third base and thinks they hit a triple, right? I want someone that's going to go out there and get it regardless of what background they came from, and they're going to go after it. And I think that's an attractive sort of persona profile of someone.
Great.
I echo everything that Paul and Mitch said. So I'm actually currently the youngest one on my team personally, but when I'll talk about my experience working with interns and recruiting them for our programs. And one of the things that I saw when they would apply is that they had this like bright-eyed passion, and it was just so exciting when an interview turned into, when I would interview someone and it almost turned into just this natural flowing conversation, because someone was so passionate about the work that they were doing, whether we were talking about like fish or we were talking about marine mammals, and they were just so excited about their interest in animal care or biology or science. And so I think that passion and kind of that bright-eyedness to just jump in and, like Mitch said, absorb everything like a sponge and ask questions. So a lot of times I found that the most successful interns in their roles, the ones that got the most rave reviews from their supervisors, were the ones that approached them with multiple questions throughout the day, because it showed that they were engaged, they were excited, they just wanted to know everything. And I think that's probably, from working with interns, it's probably the biggest thing that I could say.
And I agree with Alexis on that, and everybody that's chimed in here. So humility is is something that is really not, it is actually lacking a lot in today is people don't know coming into an industry or coming out of college, you don't know what you don't know. So you have to be willing to work to understand what it is that you're doing. You're not going to start at the top. I think it was Mitch that said it. You're not going to start at the top. You're going to have to start at entry level. You're going to have to start doing things that you don't necessarily want to do for the rest of your career, but you have to gain those functions to understand what it is to get where you're going. One of the things that I see in newer or younger associates that come into the company is a lot of people are, especially in our field, looking for solutions to problems that don't necessarily exist. So how do we apply technology to what we do on a daily basis? Well, there's really not a need. It's really not going to be a benefit to us in certain areas. So look for the problems that actually exist and how we can make those better, and not create a bigger problem or slow people down because we would just want to create a process or a technological solution to something.
Great.
I'd say the only thing to add off of what everybody has said, because everybody said everything that should be considered. I would say just be curious. Always ask why. As annoying as that sounds, if you're given a directive from a manager, or you're working with a business partner, or you're trying to do something from scratch that nobody's seen before, just understand why you're doing it. Not only can that help you grow your own personal knowledge in whatever avenue you're working in, but it can also kind of trigger you to think outside the box on what you're working on. Maybe there is an enhancement opportunity. Maybe the person who told you to go do something, they don't know that you could do it a different way and save 50% of your time. Or maybe it can be cleaner or look differently. So always ask the questions, understand what's going on, be curious, um, and just, I think it was Mitch that said it, be a sponge, especially early in your career. Nobody is expecting you to know everything. Nobody is expecting you to be like a SME in a given topic. They know you're going to ask questions. They know that you're going to have to grow. And they know that there's going to be times you're probably going to make a mistake. So be humble about it, acknowledge that it happened, and keep moving forward.
I think that's spot on, Tiffany. I think when you ask those why questions, it really helps develop your problem solving skills too. And when you understand the how and the why behind why you're doing something, it also makes you a better teacher when it comes further down the line, because then you're able to help others understand when they're onboarding or joining an organization, to understand when you're teaching them the importance of it. Because I think so many times when we're working, we're just like, oh, I'm told to do this, so I just have to go and do it. It's my job. But I think when we understand the why we're actually doing it, that's a lot more important. I think the only other thing that I would say that I look for is when I'm onboarding someone or looking to hire somebody, I'm looking for someone that's going to stay with me. I want that tenure, just because the cost of onboarding and the time it takes to ramp somebody up and get them really that time and position before they really can start being beneficial on my team is a long runway. So I know that it's going to take some time. So I know I said this earlier this morning, if anybody's in here, if you have the will, then normally a good employer will really teach you that skill and help fill in those competency gaps for you, and help you to be successful as long as you want to be successful for the organization. But it's going to take some work to get there, and that onus a lot of time is on you as that person to get yourself there, because they're not going to hit you over the head and drag you across the finish line to get you there.
Thank you, everyone. That was fantastic advice for our students. I have one last question before we open the Q&A, but I did want to ask the students that are on the webinar if you can go ahead and, if you haven't already, start uploading your questions to the Q&A, so that way we can see them and ask them to our alums. So my final question is, as we wind down, would you each leave us with one final piece of advice that you believe students need to hear before beginning their careers? I'll give you a minute or two to think about that, and then we'll go.
Yeah, I'll start it out. I would just say it takes years, a lot of time to build up your brand and your reputation, but it takes a few minutes or one bad decision to ruin it. So always do the right thing. Your ethics can never be compromised. And if you do the right thing, then to Tiffany's point, if you screw up and you make a mistake, you raise your hand and say, I screwed it up. And it gives it gives everyone collaboratively a chance to fix it, right? So bad news delivered early is just bad news. Bad news hidden, covered up is, could be the end of your career and could compromise your ethics and your reputation.
Mitch is dead on that. It's integrity. Your brand is everything. And if you're going to work in a career path, one moment of weakness in not doing the right thing when no one's watching can severely impact your integrity. And once that happens, it takes years to bring that back. I've seen many good people that are actually good people make a bad business decision, and it's caused them to have to take steps back in their career or have to go somewhere else to work, because it just tells a lot about character when you're doing the wrong thing when no one's watching, and eventually will catch up to you. So integrity. Your brand is who you are, and you have to maintain that above all else.
I would say, don't be afraid to jump into any opportunity that you can. So for example, my day-to-day is very different depending on what projects I'm working on. So I have an opportunity because my team is so small. The HR department at my organization is so small. There's 5 of us, and it calls for a lot of moving parts. So I have my job description, I signed it, I acknowledged it, but there are things that I'm doing throughout my day that are not in my job description. And that's okay, because I'm able to look at it and look at my skill set and build on my skill set. So one of the things that I'm actually doing is spearheading a diversity, equity, and inclusion program at our organization. We have a DE&I committee, but we don't have any formal training. And so I think that's really important for, especially within STEM, to get that diversity message out there. So I jumped on that project, and I've been working with senior leadership, and I've been working with my colleagues to kind of get the ball rolling on that. And so I would say, don't be afraid, even if, at first it's an idea that's maybe shot down or a project that's shot down, keep trying for it, keep advocating for it, because again, it only allows you to build your skill set, and it allows you to build your resume too, which is great. So
I would sort of build off what everybody said, but more specifically Alexis, in terms of being open-minded. For me, I think when you're young and you're starting your career, just be open-minded about where those opportunities are. There's opportunities everywhere. Don't box yourself in to say, I'm from Boston, I need to stay in Boston. I'm from Connecticut, I need to stay in Connecticut. Literally hit the pavement, find opportunities, pursue them. You're a sum of your parts, right? All your experiences are going to help you build your foundation as someone on a career path. So take everything you can, whether you love it or you hate it, and take something from it, and just continue to move forward. Be open-minded about where those opportunities are.
I'd say on my end, soft skills are everything. Hone your soft skills, your ability to talk with people, empathy, integrity, having that open-minded mindset. Companies can train you technical stuff all day long. They can tell you how to do a process. They can tell you how to do a project. They can tell you, until the sun goes down, who you have to work with. What they can't tell you or train you is how you choose to do your job. But people take notice. It goes to networking. It goes to personal brand. So for what people can't necessarily train you on, make it your focus and you will stand out as an employee or a student or an intern. It works everywhere.
Wonderful.
I would probably, yes, I agree with everything. I would probably just rephrase something that was said. It's okay to fail, because when you fail, that's when you learn. But to everyone's point, it's if you have integrity and you fail with integrity and you bring that up in a timely manner, it's your employer is going to be okay with that, because that's when you're truly going to learn. Because every one of us up here has failed multiple times at our roles, and will continue to fail multiple times in the future too. But that's how we've all learned, and that's where we gain our success from.
Great, thank you so much. We have a number of questions from our students, so I'll start going through those. The first one is, how do you narrow down on what you want to do as a career? If I have
Get involved as much as you can. I think it goes back to what we were saying about internships. If you can, or internships, volunteer opportunities, opportunities to help on a project, jump into those. And then you'll be able to figure out like, oh, maybe I liked this aspect of a job, but I didn't really like this. And then you're able to really narrow down what you want to do. But if you're not exposed to those experiences, it's harder to really narrow down what trajectory your career should go in.
Yeah, for those students that are, months away from entering the workforce, right? And you think it's too late, it's not. So you can network and have exploratory meetings throughout your network, your parents' network, your friends and families, and set up meetings. And as we get back to in-person, it's easier today for Zoom to set up a 30-minute meeting with someone that you either respect, you admire, or someone in your family or your community or your connections respects and admires. And you can ask them to talk a little bit about themselves and their career path and decisions they made or decisions they didn't make, and ask probing questions, come prepared to that meeting. And in 30 minutes, many people like talking about themselves and what they've done, and you can get a lot of information, and then put all of that together and just make your personal decisions, and don't be afraid to take a chance.
Great. The next question, what post-graduation resources provided by Johnson & Wales has helped you in your career?
On my end, I would actually just say the network. Coincidentally, in my career at Fidelity, I have met quite a few postgraduates of Johnson & Wales, not only those from Rhode Island, but some that went to Charlotte, some down south. And it's actually helped me from a networking opportunity. I remember from one project, it had a very, very difficult client, getting towards the end of my patience. And I happened to come across an employee at Fidelity, and we had a class together. Didn't even really remember the person, but they reminded me of the class, and it was like a crisis and controversy class or something of that nature. It wasn't specifically finance. And I was able to build a connection off of him, and the two of us, we took like 45 minutes out of our day after building that relationship, and we came up with a solution on how to handle the client at hand, to where basically at the end of the project, everybody was happy and fine, and we were able to conclude without too many issues. So I would say, the network, use it to your advantage. People are quite proud of being graduates of Johnson and Wales, and it is a very good conversation starter, especially if you're new to networking with people you don't know. Little things like that can go a long way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would reiterate, it truly is who you know, and your persistence level. If you're willing to continue to put in the work, not take no for an answer. If you email someone or message someone on LinkedIn and they don't respond, message them again, email them again. Persistence is going to lead to opportunity. Don't be shy about that. LinkedIn is a great resource. I've gotten a position there that's kind of jump-started me into the role that I'm in now. So continue to use that, and don't shy away from, maybe not receiving contact back. Just continue to be persistent.
I would say if it's still there, the Experiential Education and Career Center, it was very helpful to have a specific center dedicated to looking at, cover letters and resumes and thinking about interviews and making sure that you're on track with your internship. So I would say, obviously when you start your internship, or you have scheduled appointments with your advisor, but I would say keep going to them as much as possible. That's what they're there for, especially if you're getting towards the end of your last year, or even before that. Keep scheduling those appointments with your advisors, because those conversations are really what's going to help you kind of settle your mind as you prepare for graduation.
Yes, they're absolutely still here, and we're gearing up for our spring career fair, and they're actually looking and taking appointments with students for just that. So thank you for that nice plug for them.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. The next question: what are some of the biggest sacrifices you have made in order to follow your career?
I mean, for me, it's willingness to move. I'm sorry to jump in, but yeah, willingness to move. I mean, I left my friends and family to come to Baltimore, and that was an intimidating moment for me. So, I think I look back now, had I not done that, probably still in a stagnant place in the place I grew up, and that'd probably be the biggest sacrifice. Obviously now I see the world differently, and that's kudos to the experience I've had coming to Under Armour. So don't be afraid to leave where you are, and home's always going to be home. You could always go back. But I think chasing opportunities as they become available is really key to growing professionally.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Paul, is don't be afraid to relocate. That's what I did for my position. Growing up in New York, I'd lived there my whole life, and thought I would just stay there my whole life. That's what I was going to do, and an opportunity arose to come up to Rhode Island, and I took it. Didn't think I was going to stay with the company that long, that it was just something to get me up there. But it turned out to be now a 15-year career. And looking back, for my family and that I have, my wife and my kids, it's turned into the best possible situation for us. If we were living back in New York, how would our lifestyle be different? What opportunities would be available? So don't be afraid to relocate. Don't be afraid to take a chance on something. Look at the long game, not the short term of the decision.
Absolutely.
Especially if the employer is asking you to relocate. I think sometimes that's even a little bit more beneficial, because they know that you're going out on a limb to support them in the organization. And so they'll look a lot of times to support you in return for sacrificing, so to speak, for the betterment of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I have not relocated, but from a different angle, the willingness to work in an uncomfortable or unknown environment. So actually for all three of my positions, there wasn't a lot of clarity on exactly what I'd be doing as a job until I was sort of neck deep in it. And then it changed the longer I was in the roles. Um, so being open-minded to not always having a black and white scenario you're going into. Um, I have to say, even with how uncomfortable some of the situations I've been in, they've turned into some of the best experiences. And I know I've grown as a person going through them. So don't be scared to take that jump, even though you don't necessarily know where you're going to land. Most of the time, you will come out better for it. And if not, always know that there are other opportunities out there. So stick with it. But you can always look for that next best step if it's not what you're looking for.
One of the challenges some of our students have are group projects. And so I wanted to kind of ask the group, remembering back what it was like in college, but also what you're working on today. Is there any advice or tricks or just anything that you can offer students of why they're so important to focus on in college, but just how you help to manage them for your success?
I mean, I can speak. Collaboration is one of our key competencies for all of our managers and supervisors throughout the organization. Due to the pandemic, we all went remote, obviously, and are working remote. So we were collaborating in the office, which was a little bit easier. But for instance, my position, I collaborate across the entire US with my role. So I collaborate with the buying office in New York. I collaborate with merchants in Atlanta. I collaborate with my peers here in the California area. So, I mean, it's something that you will constantly do across time zones, across multiple areas of the business. Regardless, you never know when you're going to get thrown into that, and it's a skill. And guess what? There's always going to be someone that you have to pick up the slack for, that isn't going to do what you need them to do on time for whatever reason. That doesn't change from college to the real world, unfortunately. But you'll be there at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to pull a presentation together to get that 9 a.m. executive presentation the next morning.
Yeah, I would agree. Group projects never go away. They just take on a different title. But I think that group projects are, right now they may not seem like everyone's favorite, but you'll appreciate them when you're on a project or working with a team, whether it is in your department or you're collaborating with other departments. You're going to appreciate this time where you were challenged to work with people, who maybe weren't meeting their specific deadlines, or you were, working with various personalities or, differing opinions. You're going to appreciate that now, than being thrown into it when you are, when you've graduated and you start in your post-graduation job, whatever that is. So they don't go away.
I have the good fortune of working for a sports company, so there's naturally a lot of consistencies and one-liners that tie to sports relative to Under Armour's culture. For me, teamwork really does make the dream work. That's going to be consistent for the entirety of my career. I believe that wholeheartedly. And to be honest, there really isn't much difference in terms of what I'm doing from a group project perspective now from what I was doing in the classroom. The only difference is the stakes are higher. So you've got to understand how to communicate. Understand that you don't have all the answers, and that the more voices in the room, if you can align on a common goal and pulling the rope together, the stronger the likelihood that you're going to succeed as a team. So again, I think just the stakes are what's higher, and the work is really, it's all the same.
Great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would say just you know, comparing how I see teamwork versus now to the past, you know, now I kind of just see it more as collaboration efforts, because you know, projects and groups of bodies you work with definitely have varying situations. In my existing role, I'm kind of like Topher. Two of my coworkers actually live in India. One's in New Hampshire, and the rest of my team is in Texas while I'm in Rhode Island. So there's a lot of playing around with time zones, but also being very empathetic to everybody's home life. Sometimes, you know, you're on a call and you have dogs in the background or you have children running around, and you kind of have to adapt, and you learn just over time, you know, maybe that's why you didn't get a document as fast as expected, or, you know, there might be some typos. So giving, you know, that little extra effort of patience, because everybody has their own situations. But really keep in mind the experiences you are having in college. It's sort of like how Alexa said, it's better to go through the hard times now, when you don't have as much on the line, but they give you really good examples of how to handle situations in the future, whether it's, you know, mitigating, you know, risk of not getting something done at time, or balancing other people's behaviors, or trying to get somebody to do something. We all know those people that it's near impossible sometimes. So it could just be how you're expressing what you need from them, or, you know, maybe it's giving them something to get the job done. You know, it can always be a little bit different depending on your circumstance. So remember what you go through now, because you will probably experience something similar in the future. You'll just have that foresight to know how to handle it a little bit easier on yourself.
Great. We have another question. The student wants to know, do you think that a dream job truly exists?
It all depends on that person's definition of what a dream job is, I guess. Work is work. It's aptly named. All of us had the choice not to work. I'm sure none of us would work if we were all independently wealthy, but it's, you know, it's something where it's a means to an end, to an extent where you have responsibilities. I have young kids and they want to be a dog walker when they grow up, and you have to have the conversation with them of, that's probably not going to be able, you know, afford you to buy a home necessarily. No offense to anybody that walks a dog, but you want to have something that you enjoy doing, number one, but it's still going to have a component of work. It's got to be something that can sustain responsibilities and families and bills and things of that nature. You have to just enjoy what you do. I didn't think doing what I did was something that I would be doing back 15, 20 years ago. But I'm doing it now. And as weird as it sounds, I really enjoy going to work every day and what I do. So to me, it's not my dream job, but it's where I enjoy spending time when I'm not with my family.
Yeah, I think almost the notion of calling it a dream job implies that the job, the career, the company defines you. And I think you've got to resist having any one job or career define you. So the work, the career, the job, it allows you to fulfill your dreams. So if your dream is retiring early or traveling, right, then that's the path to get there. If it's to continue to learn and innovate, or, you know, cure for cancer, whatever it is, then ultimately that work is the vehicle to fulfill your dreams.
I spent a lot of my early 20s, I think, looking for that dream job, so to speak. And then I started realizing, like what Michael was saying, that I had to find that dream job in myself, and find it to be a means to an end, and what made me happy, each day and what brought me contentment. And I always thought the next job, like it was greener pastures over there. And I found out that it actually was the same, just different logo on the building, different name on the building. So that's probably one of the reasons I spent 13 and a half years at my current organization, but I've had multiple different careers with this company because I continue to find opportunities within that organization and continue to find greener pastures here to continue to find excitement and opportunities that keep me motivated and keep me moving forward.
I really love what everybody has said so far. For me, I think the big thing comes down to passion. Like, what are you truly passionate about that allows you to navigate the more difficult times with a sense of perspective that you're doing something that you really enjoy, versus when the hard times come, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it's gonna feel like a real hard thing to navigate through. So, for me, I think Mitch said it perfectly. What are your values and what drives you as a person in order to live a happy life? That should be number one. And if you figure that out, then, there's a means to an end there. So passion for me, biggest thing. And obviously, figuring out who you want to be and how you want to live your life.
The only thing I would add on to what Paul just said is the notion of a dream job is like you're looking for one job. Just keep in mind as you grow and get older, yes, we all get older, unfortunately, your perspective on life changes drastically, whether for work, life, mentally. We are continuously changing. So your aspect of what your dream job is also going to continuously change. One thing that I noticed just as, again, getting older, unfortunately, I find that the more jobs I do, the more that I'm just uncovering what I don't want to do in a career than necessarily my perfect career out there. Because you meet new people, you do different processes, you work with different departments or clients, and you're always going to figure out, well, what do you really like about this? What do you don't like about this? And the parts that you do like, those are what you can look for in your next step. Like, I know passion for mine is I really like investigating things and analytics. My passion in college was finances and, tearing apart companies. Then I go and I start working for a brokerage firm. I realized that it's not just finances, it's just the researching things and getting down to its foundation and making decisions off of that was what I really liked. So I could jump from, one analytical role to the next, or project management or others, and I would still be happy because at the core, I just like investigating things. So a dream job wouldn't necessarily exist, but I can keep proceeding forward with the stuff that I'm passionate about. So it's okay if yours changes over time. We all change.
I was just about to say that same thing, Tiffany. I think a dream job infers that there's one opportunity out there that's perfect and it's going to be perfect for your entire life. And that's not necessarily the case. Because again, as Tiffany mentioned, your perspectives do change. So keeping that in mind that, there are jobs out there that are wonderful and they have great aspects to them. But there's various opportunities that will change your perspective, which will ultimately change what your definition of a dream job is.
Well, thank you so much to our alums. That's the end of our questions, but we would like to thank you for taking the time out to spend with us today. You are a wealth of information and knowledge, and the experiences you shared with us were inspiring and greatly appreciated. Please remain connected with us. We're so proud of you. Students, we hope that you found this information insightful and helpful for navigating your own career path. This concludes today's session. Although a virtual presentation does not lend itself to post-event mingling, please feel free to connect with alumni on LinkedIn to continue the conversation. Have a wonderful rest of your day.